get up, let me begin. This is CWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down. Get up, let me begin. This is CWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
Shout out Young Swish.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Sitdown Morning Show with 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗏𝗏. I'm your host, 𝗦𝗨𝗏𝗏. Joined my co-host as always, Daniel 𝗦𝗡𝗏, and we've got our boy, back in the building, Tim Andrews. What's going on, man? How we doing?
Hey, I'm good, man.
You feeling good?
Yeah. Try to get through today.
Get through today. I think that's the I would say the entire feeling or vibe of the week for a lot of people in Bengal country. People are just trying to get through today. And apparently, which we'll talk about on the show, there were some comments made by 𝗕𝗘𝗏𝗂𝗧𝗑𝗍 today on ESPN Get Up, where he talks about Joe Burrow being out of Cincinnati. We're gonna get to that because that's a whole lot we're gonna talk about. But on this show today, we're gonna be talking about Phillip Rivers. We're gonna be talking about the Chiefs. We're gonna talk about Pete Carroll potentially being on the hot seat. And we're going to be talking about Michigan firing Sherrone Moore, which was one of the craziest stories to come out of yesterday. Honestly, one of the wildest stories to come out of this football season. And for that, we have my guy, Drew Garrison, joining us live on the show. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited to have Drew on as well. That will be happening here in the next couple of minutes. But I first want to briefly talk about Phillip Rivers and the Indianapolis Colts. You know, I saw an interesting thing on social media, boys, and it was somebody saying the state of the NFL and the quarterback position should be ashamed. I found that interesting. They said, because what does it say about the state of backups, even free agent quarterbacks, third-string quarterbacks in the National Football League, practice squad quarterbacks, where people have to go out and beg a 44-year-old quarterback who hasn't played in 5 years almost to come out of retirement to play football? Because what people were saying was, does this speak to young guys not being developed enough? Does this speak to fourth-year quarterbacks, third-year quarterbacks, or even kids coming out of college not understanding how to read NFL defenses? And I thought that was a very fascinating conversation, because to me, you got to go out there and you add a 44-year-old quarterback, and I get it. Apparently, he ran the Colts system at his high school level, and him and Shane Steichen shared notes and called each other every single week. I get all that. But then you have the weird reports. Oh, he's in the best shape of his life. He walked up onto the podium, and I could have sworn I saw another chin. I'm just being honest here. Just say you weren't happy with the state of the National Football League and the rest of its quarterbacks. Why are you trying to sell us that Phillip Rivers is in the best shape? He was winded when he walked up to the podium yesterday. To me, I just don't understand a lot of it, but I also think that this is a slap in the face to guys that were hoping to get a shot. Guys like Sean Clifford, right? Even Cam Newton came out and said, wow, what does this say about me? I don't know. Tim, I know you have some thoughts. We'll start with you.
Dadgummit, let's just go. Like where I'm at, it's almost been, let's just put this into perspective. It's been almost 1,800 days since we saw Phillip Rivers put on an NFL uniform. I don't know where you exactly go from here as far as the Colts and, you know, the whole Anthony Richardson thing, but I was speaking to someone in the car on the way here this morning, and the idea that Phillip Rivers could be at a point where your next 3 games are against the Seahawks, against the 49ers, and against the Jaguars. You talk about coming off of your couch. He's a granddad, by the way, right now. Like, and that's not a joke. That's he's an actual granddad. His oldest son is the same age as as Daniel Jones.
Oh,
bro, I don't. If you want to talk about, I saw him during his practices. The few clips that was aired on ESPN. He has a turkey bowl release right now, And what I mean by that is backyard. They say he hasn't forgotten how to throw a football. I don't think as a guy who hasn't thrown a football in a long time, I think I can still go out there and throw a football. But to the degree in which, at what point you are in the season and what is at stake for the team, this is a hope and a prayer that he's able to get through at least the next 3 weeks. Nonetheless, the entire season. What you're asking Phillip Rivers to do is just to manage the game if he does end up playing this weekend. I thought that this would be a prime spot if Anthony Richardson was able to find a way to get himself into even be able to be competent enough to play this weekend or really during this season, because he could save his career by this opportunity that's been presented in which he could come out and keep the team afloat and possibly get into the playoffs and show flashes that he has grown at all during this period that's been tough for him. Where I'm at with it is, Phillip, great guy, he prime example of loving the game of football. I love it. The story is a little crazy, to say the least, but who's to say that he can't possibly get them to a point where they could be looking at, come down to the final game of the season, they could have a chance of taking the division and, making a run for whatever it is. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but given the circumstances, they've exhausted all the damn options. They have, and it's a cry for help almost. But this is also on just really the entire NFL when you look at what the backup quarterback position is and what its value is in the league. This is just a more evident situation of knowing that you need to have somebody who can come in and still produce at some type of level. It also brings up the point about offensive line play. Will this offensive line be capable of holding up and protecting Phillip Rivers? And how many shots do you plan to take downfield and be able to push the ball with Phillip? Testing his arm. Is he able to extend plays to some degree? There's a whole bunch that goes into jumping off the couch after 4.5 years and going against three or four top 10 defenses, 15 defenses in the league. You're talking about a Seattle Seahawks team who's rolling right now. You're talking about a 49ers team who's hungry and wants to stay, as consistent as possible while they're going to this stretch and entering the playoffs as well. And then you got a Jaguars team who knows everything's in front of them. This is a tough situation to have. And how will Steichen handle that moving forward, Dan?
Yeah, man, this is one hell of a story, and at least I'm excited to watch it. If you guys want my honest opinion, I'm curious. I'm excited because if everybody's out here on social media bashing some of these other quarterbacks, saying, "Oh, this guy can't run. This guy can't run. This guy can't get out of the pocket." People, when Mac Jones was playing for the 49ers, hell, even Shedeur Sanders, people are like, "Oh, this dude outside the pocket is trash." What's he going to look like when Phillip Rivers is getting chased by Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy? That's what I'm curious to see. And
Will Anderson.
Or Will Anderson.
Danielle Hunter.
Eric Armstead. Like, I think, bro, like, I'm excited to see it just for the pure entertainment factor. And I do think that Phillip could probably conduct some sort of offense. And hell, maybe he can run the offense better than a Riley Leonard because of the checkdowns. We saw it with Joe Flacco, right? I think that's the best example. And that's the hope of what this can be. This guy comes in, he knows the offense, he knows the easy buttons. But my fear is Joe Flacco just played 4 weeks before he stepped onto the football field with the Bengals against the Steelers. Tom Brady, at his old age, played every year before that. That's my concern right now is this dude is stepping off the couch.
And here's my thing. Tom Brady, you got a lot of people fooled. Like, I know the transition from New England to Tampa, you were still playing football. Yeah, you were 40 years old. I get that. But he was still active. I just want this, if this does go bad, I want everyone to know there's not a lot of Tom Brady's that are going to be born, that have been born, or have had the ability to continue to throw and be effective as Tom did. Being 40 years old, my dad sleeps while sitting up. I have an uncle who tore his Achilles getting off the curb. I'm not saying this is gonna happen. I'm not gonna say that Philip is gonna do that. And I want the best for him. I want Philip. Do we all agree that he's a Hall of Famer?
I'm not there, but
you're not there.
I think
you can add a little chapter to what could possibly be a Hall of Fame resume. He didn't win a Super Bowl. He's been in the playoffs a handful of times, but if he's able to produce effectively and get them to the playoffs, Philip can talk his shit as much as he wants. I'm going to be completely honest with you. My only pushback on adding Philip Rivers is that there was other guys that you could have possibly called if you wanted to take a chance on a veteran who hasn't played in a while. I know Cam didn't look the best when he, was lacing up his boots. Kaepernick's been asking for God knows how long. I don't know. I don't think he would have been the answer, but I think as far as game shape and working out, Philip walked up to like you said, I did see a second chin. I did see when he was asked about his weight. I don't know right now. Okay, him putting on a practice jersey looked a little bloated from the bottom. I'm just saying, as far as getting into game time situation type of physical physique, it's tough to call.
Well, we're gonna have plenty of time to talk about that. I do want to get my guy in here because we got to discuss Michigan. We got to talk about Michigan. We got to talk about what took place yesterday, breaking in people's homes. On his Diddy. that's what it seemed like. I mean, that's what it seemed like to me. I don't know. But without further ado, which
nothing.
Go
ahead.
We're waiting for the Netflix documentary on this one. But without further ado, I want to bring my guy. You guys know him as Drew Garrison.
Hold on, who did the take that? Right?
Chill, man.
No,
hey, Drew,
stupid.
chill, dog. Chill. I'm trying to let that fly out the window, dog. What up,
That
Drew?
was crazy. That was crazy.
Listen, all I know is that Netflix documentary is about to be crazy, man.
50 most petty.
Drew, I don't even know how we gonna do this. First of all, I gotta say your quality, brother.
Yeah, it's so
You're
crazy.
shining, brother.
Man, shout out Sony. I got a new camera.
Okay.
Well, that boy get money.
Love the setup. Love the setup. Well, you guys must know Drew Garrison. He's a garage beer athlete, as he calls himself.
Yes.
He is a
for now.
For now. He's my good friend. Listen, man, Drew, I want to bring in here. I first want to ask you, how do we get here? How do we get here with Sherrone Moore now being out as Michigan's head coach instantly? Probably the best job in college football, not named Alabama, is opened, right?
Yep.
Right. You got to wonder, somebody like Lane Kiffin, who just obviously left to become the head coach of LSU. Do you think he's like kicking himself a little bit right now? Because Michigan is, Harbaugh did a great job. Your AD did a great job. The pipeline, the recruiting, Michigan's been a powerhouse. I mean, Ohio State has struggled to beat you guys the last couple of years. You guys won a national championship. You've had multiple first-round picks. Talk to me. How do we get here?
So I think the Sherrone Moore hire from the start was Michigan expecting NCAA sanctions after the whole Connor Stalions thing.
Yeah,
because he stepped in for Harbaugh. He did a good job. He beat Ohio State. But then I think that they thought, okay, we might get hit with some sanctions. It might be a rough couple of years. We'll just promote from within and put him in here, because I feel like coming off of a national title when Harbaugh leaves, you have to try to keep that momentum going on with a big hire when you're in Michigan. So I think that they suspected something was coming, and it turns out it really didn't. But then you see last year 6-5, he beats Ohio State. That probably saves him a little bit. But the indictment on him, I think, was the lack of development from Bryce Underwood this year. You're running the show. You're the head coach. And I mean, we saw him in the biggest game of the year. We saw what the game plan was in the biggest game of the year. Jordan Marshall went out and Sherrone Moore didn't know what to do. Now, after that game, you start to hear the rumors online that he has impregnated a staffer and things like that. And I really thought people were just trolling. Like, I really did.
Nah.
It turns out this has been going on since, like, I think the investigation at least early November. And obviously it goes south, right? The reports are that there was a coaches only meeting that he was not invited to, that he found out about. And apparently, allegedly guy drove to this woman's house, kicked in the door, had a knife, and was like threatening to kill her and himself.
Jesus
is what it sounds like. Now, you know, guy's got, I think, 4 children at home. He's got a wife at home. Like, I feel for them in this situation. It's right before Christmas, very public. Like, that's terrible for them. If this dude is actually suicidal, whether he did some scumbag shit or not, I hope he gets some help and is okay. Absolutely. Right? Like, bigger picture than football. But I do think that there is an element of Michigan waiting to fire him with cause. Something has to have happened yesterday that makes them think, okay, we can fire him with cause, not have to pay him. If they were planning on doing this, people say they waited till after signing day. I struggle to believe that to an extent because of so many other openings that were there that they would have had to compete with on the market, right? Like, I don't feel like that they would be like, well, we have to get 𝗬𝗢𝗕𝗏 in here first. We have to get these receivers. Michigan desperately needs receivers. I can see why people would think that, but I don't know why they would intentionally put themselves behind the 8 ball in the coaching search like that. I think that there was just something else that happened in the investigation that gave them enough confidence to say we can go to court and show that we fired him with cause.
Yeah, and even just looking at that, I guess my other question, just to backtrack for 1 second, heading into this end of the season, so you're kind of saying, hey, even as a head coach, he's not what you fully expected or wanted necessarily, and would you have been confident with him leading the charge versus a new guy coming in this upcoming season?
I was ready for him to get canned after the Ohio State game. I bought the hype a little bit in 2023 when he took over for Harbaugh for those 3 games because he beat Ohio State and he walked up to that post-game handshake with Ryan Day looking like Suge Knight. Like, I'm like, this is a guy, right? Like, okay, yeah. He just sunned right. But then this year, Ryan Day's like, yo, get off my field while they're at home. And he's just like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll get him. I'm like, no, this guy's got to go. Him and Zach Taylor would slap fight over the last White Claw. I swear. So I can't do it anymore. So I was ready for him to move on. I thought for sure he was going to get 1 more year. I thought they were going to say, okay, you have to make the playoff next year or you're out. That's what leads me to believe that he did a press conference 3 days ago talking about the plans for 2026 and the Cheez-It Bowl. Everybody loves the Cheez-It Bowl. So I think that something happened that gave them that proof. And now you look at how messy it's gotten. Like, I was waiting for Buddy to be in a white Bronco heading for the Canadian border or something. Like, it was wild.
Nah,
like,
y'all say I'm out of pocket.
Yeah, man.
What, we can't do an OJ reference on the morning show?
No, we 100% can. 100% can.
Hey, Drew, man, I've been a huge fan of your work, man. So pleasure to talk to you, man.
Appreciate
so with the recent situations that have, been brought to light, what do you think going forward this will do for Michigan's recruiting process, the guys who are looking at, coming to the school? And then also, what are your top choices for head coach?
So recruiting wise, like, this opens the door for guys to get out of their commitments. This opens the doors for guys to transfer. Like, it's the Wild West anyway, so nothing really stops that. The big one that you're worried about is 𝗬𝗢𝗕𝗏, the running back, top running back prospect. Everybody thought he could be an instant contributor as a true freshman. Mm-hmm. He posted a picture with him and Sherrone after he committed. I've seen that picture's been deleted. He's still got plenty of Michigan stuff on his socials. So, like, this is where we go, right? We're looking at the top recruits, these receivers, the 𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗖𝗏 that you stole from Georgia right on signing day.
Right.
But looks like it's kind of okay right there. People started worrying, is Bryce Underwood going to leave now? I don't know that he came to Michigan for Sherrone Moore. I think he came to Michigan for a check. So I think we might be all right there. So nothing crazy on the recruiting front yet. No big names have come out and said that they're reviewing other options or opening the recruitment back up or anything like that. But they have to get this next hire in quick. They have to get the right guy in very, very quickly before that starts to happen. And looking at those names, lots of smoke around Kalen DeBoer from Alabama. Malik, the Roll Tide guy, people saying he don't like the pressure down there.
Hey, man. Hey, listen, I got to bring Big Al in for this one.
Hey, here he
Do
goes.
me a favor. Do me a favor. You listen, you would make my day.
Take him.
If you want to take Kalen DeBoer, take him. Take him.
That's what I'm
I'll
saying,
hand you
bro.
the keys. No problem.
I don't want the guy who's down there saying I don't like the pressure of coaching at Alabama. You're going to Michigan, bro.
Listen, dude, you think it's pressure at Alabama? Lose a game against Ohio State. Lose a game against Ohio State.
9-3 already isn't cutting it.
You know, like the
Yeah.
standard at Michigan is high, right? Alabama's standard is obviously high because you're replacing the greatest college football coach probably in history in Nick Saban. That was always tough shoes to fill, and I always felt like Kalen DeBoer was a weird hire when it was first announced. But it makes me think, could they pluck a Steve Sarkisian, right? A guy that has been talking, I know he's been flirting around NFL rumors and stuff like that. Or do they pluck one of these NFL guys? Do they pluck one of these NFL guys that maybe we're not talking about here? Maybe there is somebody on the tip of the tongue that might make sense at Michigan. Yeah.
Don't let John Harbaugh get fired. Don't let John Harbaugh get fired.
Oh yeah. Listen, it's a weird dynamic going on. I'm sorry, it's a weird dichotomy going on right now. In college football, where like college football is becoming kind of like the NFL. They're hiring guys with NFL experience. So who's to say Michigan doesn't say, hey, I know they don't have ties to this guy, but maybe they go out there and they say, hey, why don't we go after Brian Daboll? Why don't we go after Joe Brady or somebody like that? Because I don't know if Joe Brady gonna be in Buffalo next year. Whether that's because he get a head coaching job is because Buffalo wants to, bring back Brian Daboll as the offensive coordinator. There's a lot of places that Michigan go. Where do you want Michigan to hire though, Drew?
I want Michigan to hire a guy. Get away from this. He has to be a Michigan man and have ties to Michigan thing. I think they're so scared because of how bad Rich Rodriguez went. Rich Rodriguez came to Michigan before his time. The spread offense, the smaller, faster defenses. That's college football now. He was just very early. The defense was, or the Big Ten was still 3 yards, a cloud of dust and all that. And that's what Michigan has been. And we saw what happened the Saturday after Thanksgiving. I need somebody that can develop a quarterback. Bryce Underwood is the top recruit that Michigan has ever received, ever gotten into their program. Give me somebody that can do that. What I fear, I will tell you what I fear. Yeah. I fear it's going to be Brian Kelly. I can't stand that dude. But he had Bryce Underwood committed to LSU. Would Michigan just be like, big name, big splash? Bryce likes him. He was going to go play for him. Let's get him. I can't stand that dude. He definitely yells at his wife at Applebee's. Like, I can't do the energy that Brian Kelly gives me. But I'm afraid that that's going to be it. If I was the one that could pick and choose and I was making the decision of who was going to be the head coach at the University of Michigan, now beside myself, because I feel like this looks natural. I feel like this looks natural.
Yeah.
Hey, would you bring me in as your defensive coordinator?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's it.
He was going to coach up the wide receivers coach. Yeah.
I can be the quarterbacks coach.
We know he has history doing that.
Coach.
Hey, listen, I could do that. I could hang with that a little bit. Listen, while we got you here, Drew, do I have you for like a little bit for a few more minutes?
Yeah, we get a few more.
Okay. I want to get your thoughts switching from Michigan. I want to know what your thoughts are on Zac Taylor and his future with the Cincinnati Bengals. You obviously know the entire NFL is up in arms over Joe Burrow's presser yesterday. Everyone drawing conclusions every which way from Joe Burrow's said presser. And you and I, we talk a lot about the Bengals, but weirdly enough, you and I don't talk about the Bengals in season. We really don't.
True.
We typically get together at the end of the season and we kind of share our thoughts and go from there. I want to get your thoughts, my man, on just everything that's been going on, because we haven't had a chance to even say, well, shit's going crazy here in Cincinnati. What are your thoughts?
I did not like the vibes in that presser at all. When the guy, it's his 29th birthday, and the guy's starting to talk about, like, I got to make sure I'm still having fun. I've been through a lot. And he said there's stuff going on, football and outside of football. First and foremost, if something's going on in his personal life, hopefully, everything gets straightened out and it's good. But from a football perspective, that tells me something has to change in that building. There was all these times where we were questioning Zac Taylor, but the one thing that you couldn't take away from Zac Taylor for so long was it seemed like guys would run through a brick wall for him. Maybe we didn't like his play calls. Maybe we didn't like how he managed the clock, but it was always these guys will go to war for Zac Taylor, and it's starting to feel like that's fading a little bit. And the defense getting progressively worse the last 3 years. I understand that he is the offensive play caller, but he's also the head coach of the entire football team. And eventually that has to land on the shoulders of the guy at the top. How involved was he in bringing Al Golden in to bring you the defense that is the worst to ever be seen against tight ends? We win that game Sunday if we could just cover tight ends. So I think we're looking at a situation where your franchise quarterback is giving off these and I understand he's not supposed to be happy at 4-9, right? I don't want him to be up there laughing and giggling and kikiing the whole time. But at the same time, he just got back from an injury that he worked his ass off to rehab from. And now it just seems too down. And I think that's when you realize as an organization, now I know the people that we're dealing with in the organization, but I think that's when you realize and you see that and you're like, wow, okay, he said that publicly. You see it taking on a life of its own. Maybe we need some new blood and new energy in this building this offseason.
I think what you said was very poignant here. I think that, I think a lot can be said without it actually being said. And we know so often quarterbacks like to communicate through the media. Quarterbacks like to communicate through these pressers. And because you got to realize a quarterback's job is very similar to being a spokesperson of a company, right?
Yes.
You have to say the right things. You have to, essentially put out the fires, but Joe Burrow's not really putting out the fires. I'm a big proponent of not allowing somebody to write your story or draw conclusions from this. It feels like Joe Burrow's a very intentional guy.
Yes.
He's very intentional with, obviously he was speaking purely from emotion there, it felt, but it also felt like it was on purpose. The powers that be, listen, unless you're just void of human emotion, how do you draw anything else from that presser? How do you draw anything else from the comments Joe Burrow made? Now, I get it. You're 29 years old, 30 years old. I mean, Drew, we both could speak to this. We're both in our 30s. You can get up there. You start thinking about life a little bit differently. You start approaching things a little bit differently because whether it's life obligations or whatever the case may be, this didn't feel like that. This is a guy who has no kids to what I know of, right? This is a guy that's not married, as far as I know. What is he talking about here? He's talking about his football future, wanting to play for a winning organization. But more importantly, it always begs the question, and I talked about this last night on State of the Jungle, are you getting better or are you getting worse? To me, the question is, does Zac Taylor still have the support of Joe Burrow? Because for years, that's what he had to fall back on, right? Losing record without the guy. But that's what he had to fall back on. He had the support of Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow's never going to be the guy that comes out and says, hey, we should fire Zac Taylor. He's never going to say that. Never would you expect him to say that. But how does anybody walk away from that press conference feeling inspired? And unfortunately, for the next few days, all we have to gauge from this is that press conference, because we won't hear again from Joe Burrow until Sunday after the game.
Yeah.
So you could draw whatever conclusions. Zac Taylor is going to say the usual, hey, well, I still believe in these guys. Everything's still in front of us. At the end of the day, a head coach should be judged off of one thing. Are you winning or are you losing? Simple as that. Are you winning or are you losing? Drew, before I get you out of here and we continue this conversation, is there anything else you want to add, brother?
Hey, I just want to appreciate you bringing me on, chopping it up and getting a chance to talk with you guys. First time we've done it virtually. Usually I come down to the studio. We'll have to do that again. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. And don't be surprised if Michigan offers Urban Meyer $100 million. How do you say no?
Hey, listen.
100 M's.
That was
right
the funniest thing that ever happened.
Hey, I'm all right with that. Listen, that would be hilarious, right? I think Daniel just wrote a piece about that actually potentially happening.
Did he?
So,
let's go.
Yeah,
We're gonna.
yeah.
I've been pushing the propaganda. We're gonna get it rolling now.
Oh,
we're getting
people,
it going.
You want people to bring torches to
He
your
just
house.
wants
That's
the
what you
best for
want.
Michigan, bro.
Exactly.
Listen, brother, we're gonna talk.
He was talking to Penn State.
Yeah, that's true. I will have you back on virtually too, man. We'll have you back on virtually. We gotta do this more often. I don't know why we don't take advantage of this thing called the internet a little bit more, often. But appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, man.
Catch you,
Thanks, bro.
So that was my good friend Drew Garrison, but I want to keep the conversation rolling. We discussed Michigan, obviously we discussed the Bengals, but I want to keep the conversation rolling with the Bengals.
Yeah.
Tim,
yeah.
you haven't had a chance to weigh in on Joe Burrow's comments, but before you weigh in on those comments, hey, Marissa, roll the clip.
I want to keep doing this. I have to have fun doing it. You know, I've been through a lot, and if it's not fun, then what am I doing it for? So that's the mindset I'm trying to bring to the table.
Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it seemed frustrating.
There's just a lot of things going on right now.
All football related, personally.
All the above. Like you said, there's nothing. All we can do is focus week to week and try to win games. I don't think anybody's really thinking about the playoffs right now. That's within reach, but on our fingertips. So we just got to keep doing what we're doing and try to get better.
Joe Burrow said it there, and I think there's a lot of things that we could take away from it. But the biggest thing that I could take away from it, just from a personal perspective, when I watched it, was it sounded almost Andrew Luck-ish. And I know that's a heavy, template to put on him, to speak on, because that was very tough for Colts fans to digest, especially at the timing in which Andrew decided to walk away from the game that he loved. And talking about a generational talent, we have one in our own in Joe Burrow. And where he is that he's just tired. And, there was a couple of people who have said it, but when you're done having fun with this shit, you'll be done with this shit. And that is where Joe is at. Not I don't think he's saying that he's gonna give up playing football or he wants out of Cincinnati. But what I think there's time for a breath of fresh air. I think he's finally taken a step back after so many times of rehab and of sitting there and people giving him a get better soon card or text, or, sitting there and leaning on his parents for time of comfort, as he said in the past. I think Joe Burrow's at the point where he's like, I just want things to start fast, to be comfortable, and for us to finish strong. And it's been tough. It's been, look, it was great when it was good, but we live in a what have you done for me lately society. And what have the Bengals done for Joe Burrow outside of get him his wide receivers? Okay, cool. I think Drew made a great point of the Bengals and Zach Taylor are responsible for the team, not Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow's been saving people's butts for so long. Honestly, if you think about what's been pushed under the rug and what's been covered up just because of the monumental, shifts in energy when Joe is back in the building or back on the field, or, in that locker room, and how it galvanizes guys to play above what they actually possibly are really, in reality, it starts to put a lot of pressure on Joe. And I think he's at the point in his career where he already came into the league, older than most starting quarterbacks. He knows that his time is different from every other starting quarterback in their prime right now who are in those top five. Patrick Mahomes has been in the league for God knows how long. Lamar Jackson, even though he's had an off year, he still feels like, I'm not at the point where I can say the same things that Joe is saying. Joe's like, I'm on a damn clock. I want to win, and I'm used to winning. And this whole 4-8, picture at mid-season point and then hoping to get help at the end of the year. Why can't we get this fixed? And it's because accountability is short-lived in that building. I said it, and I understand people are like, give Zach another year. There's some people who have actually been saying, keep Zach in there and find someone to run the deep. We've been saying these same things for so long with really little to any progress. It's tough. And I feel for Joe. I do. If it wasn't the offensive line, it wasn't consistently having your wide receivers all there, having all your weapons at your disposal. It was a play calling issue with it being, simplistic and it being almost able to be told from the other sideline and know what you're doing, all the way to Joe getting to the point to where he's like, you know what, I'm I damn near, he said this last year, I damn near have to be perfect or we're not gonna be okay. And that's tough to have on somebody every damn year. So I mean, at this point, would you only thing I would ask is, Joe, if you're gonna pull that trigger, would I blame you? Hell nah. But would I be okay with it? No. But do I understand? And I have to be from a standpoint where I look at it from both parties. Yeah. The Bengals haven't, which has been the case with a couple of guys. Carson Palmer. He was just more blunt with what he needed and what he wanted. And that was out of Cincinnati. Joe was giving you signs. And when guys are sitting there saying, I have to find ways to stay happy. I'm dealing with a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm not just saying it's the Bengals that's going into his psychological thinking when it comes to his football future. It's everything. Dog got it. Look, he got his trap ran into and his stuff taken, I want to say last season. Then on top of that, the injuries and he's had, his situations with his relationships, whether that was, him wanting to just be more to himself. You don't want a guy with this type of passion and energy that comes out on Sunday. You don't want him to lose that and the love for the game. Because I know once I'm done, dealing with certain situations, it's kind of like, you know what? If I stay here, I'm going to be sacrificing my own humility. I'm going to be sacrificing my own belief in what I want and what I desire and where I want to be. Dog, like you said, you and Drew will be 30 this year, or you're in your 30s. I turned 30 this year. I've had plenty of conversations where it's like, I don't want to be 15 years from now sitting back thinking about me in this point. Damn, I wish I would have did things differently. No, I want to get it done now so then I can say I got it right when I did, when I was that age, when I was able to make an impact on my future and what I want at the end of the day. So it's a tough situation, and these are tough conversations to have, especially, going into, these upcoming weeks and this offseason. You're going to have to, this draft class is going to have to be phenomenal, and it's going to have to be some change. And I think, Zach, I appreciate you for what you've done. Your visits to the bars with game balls, your resiliency as far as sitting there and telling guys to never quit. But it gets old, and we're tired of hearing the same thing. I'm not going to believe you if there's no production behind it. At the end of the day, I think I said this last week. If I don't give you the belief that I know what the hell I'm talking about, then it's going to be curtains for me, because then I'm going to start to question my ability to do my job as Joe Burrow. He's at a point where he's questioning, damn, is this really, am I able to uplift this team past, to get to that point of a Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Are you guys helping me? Are we on the same page? Well, you got to start looking at people who write the checks and, give say-sos on certain circumstances that are kind of out of your control. Yeah, you Joe Burrow, you got a lot of pull where you at. Where you lay your head at night, a lot of people question, they want to make sure you're comfortable, but are they really? And that's the question that he's asking himself. You got to look in the mirror, and I'm talking about Katie Blackburn, I'm talking about Duke Tobin, and Zach. If you want to continue to be an offensive coordinator in this league, you're going to have to revamp the way that you think. You're going to have to take chances, and you're going to have to be a better version of yourself for wherever you go, because it ain't going to be here. I'm going to be completely honest with you, and if it is, it's going to be a lot of the same shit.
Can I ask you a question, Tim, before we let Daniel get in here? Because I agree with you. I do believe that he has a lot more pull than he probably even believes that he has. But I actually think I think he actually knows he has a lot of pull. You were a quarterback,
yeah,
right? You were a player as well.
Yeah.
Daniel and myself, we never played football. You played at a very high level, or you almost did at the very least.
Yeah.
What is that like, having a coach who you've had success with, but it seems like it may have run its course? What does that look like, when you're trying to get the players to believe in you, to believe in your message, to believe in your vision? What is that feeling like? Because I think that's a feeling neither Daniel or I will ever know, because obviously I talk to agents, I talk to players, but I think that you could provide some good insight from being a former player yourself.
Yeah. It's basically a staggered relationship that has a lack of accountability, and also just unwavered, place of communication, where those two are at in their points of their careers is Zach is trying to hold on to every string that he might have as far as keeping his job. But there's a belief effort. You start to get this denial in your head of, am I able to, or are we able to actually start fast and keep that? There's a level of consistency that's lost when there really was never a level of consistency. So you're trying to find a whole new page. At the end of the day, when your head coach is sitting there and kind of saying the same things, it's blah, 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 blah in your ear.
Yeah.
And you're at the point where it's like, I need to hear something new. I've said it a few times. There's a toughness missing about the Bengals during the offseason. There's a kind of a want or desire of structure. And, somebody who you feel like, put their head down and work to give you what you need. Because is there a championship type of quarterback in your building? Hell yeah. Is there, as Joe Burrow sitting there as a quarterback, I'm able to make people play above what their average is. And that's all that I ask. But I need the personnel to manage above their average. I need them to step their game up. And if you're losing that faith, in August, during OTAs and going into, you're confused on what you want to do specifically during the preseason. Do we play guys? Oh, we're worried about them getting hurt. That's a part of the game of getting hurt. I want the opportunity to be able to put the best product out because we are in a business of results. We're in a business of showcasing our talents on a global stage. This isn't just in the United States. This isn't just, in countries that we're showcasing countries that we might not even be able to pronounce. I don't want to put out a bad product and it looks bad on me because I'm the quarterback. This falls on me just as much as Zach Taylor, whether he takes accountability or not. One thing Joe Burrow has done that I've seen consistently is take this is me, this is on me. Why we're here is on me. Why we didn't win was on me. I didn't hear any excuses after the Buffalo game from Joe. And to be honest with you, I really haven't ever. But I have heard Joe throw slight comments. And like you said, the media is used to kind of say what you really want to say without saying it. But I'm telling you, as a former player, as a guy who's been in the locker room, and
a former quarterback,
yeah, I'm having conversations with my receivers and also my defensive linemen, even my kickers sometimes, and we might be sitting there while we're eating lunch and say, "I'm sick of this shit. I'm tired." At the end of the day, dog, we're losing, and it's not by a lot. That's what hurts. I'd rather get blown out than sit here and lose by 3 points. I'd rather sit here and have, just a bad game plan than sit here and know that we made enough plays to win the game, but we just came up short. That stuff is tiresome. It hurts at the end of the day. And the Bengals have the team to win the division almost every year. Yeah. If not every year. Yeah, you're going to have issues with Baltimore. It is what it is. And that'll be a conversation that we have in a little bit. Whether or not, as far as the AFC North, I think we're content. And we've been content for so long with what we have when we go into the offseason. Yeah, we add little pieces during free agency, but is that pushing us over the hump? We need more personnel in our scouting department. We have
they did add. I'm not granted. I'm just saying they did add scouts. I just think that, like, for me, it's not just that. It's definitely a coaching. It's definitely coaching plays a huge part of this thing, right? And I think that. Right. I think that the message, right, was winning cures all, but when you're not winning, people start to grow frustrated, and I think that's where we are right now. I think that's where this Bengals team is right now. I think that they feel as if they have the talent offensively to compete with anybody, and Joe Burrow. I mean, Joe Flacco kept them afloat. Right? Why weren't you able to pull off more victories? And then that's when, right, when we start talking about situational coaching on the show, that's when we start being, getting into the finer details of the game. That's when we start nitpicking certain calls, and so because football is a football game. Yep. Not every game is going to be coached properly. Andy Reid has bad games. Bill Belichick had bad games. Pete Carroll has bad. Pete Carroll definitely has bad games. But listen, it's not that. It's why are we still having these same miscues in year 7?
Your coaches,
where it
your
is.
coaches sit there and they tell you to do your 111, but
Yeah.
when it comes to a win-loss record, doing your 111 culminates to a overall record. That's for the team.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people are forgetting, and not necessarily people, but I think the front office is forgetting. This is a team sport, not just a team that's put on the field to produce a product that fans want to use their hard-earned money for, that they work for, 5, 6, 7 days of the week. No, this is the front office. You have to be able to sit there and say, you know what, we have to do more. And at this point where Joe is, where you've heard it from Ja'Marr Chase, you've heard it from T, you got guys. You can't have a happy relationship doing the bare minimum.
Yep.
Let me say that again. You can't have a happy relationship, a healthy relationship, a stable relationship, a relationship where you feel like, you know what, if I leave, will this be able to be held down? You want to have a partner. And when you start to feel like it's just a financial gain at the end of the day, it's all transactional, which is, I guess, what you would call the NFL and really what college football has turned into. It's a lot of transaction, but you have to have results while giving these transactions. I'm not paying, I'm not going to be giving, guys on the defensive side, $25 million, $35 million per year. And I'm talking about you, Trey. Trey, you a lot to blame for this too. Did all of that holding out over the season, or over the off season, and then you come back and now you're looking at, you're asking for possible avenues of surgeries, or you calling it a season when your team needed you. I think if you're on the field for the Patriots game and the Bills game, the Bengals are looking at winning the division and being firm in the playoffs as a 4 seed. Now we're talking. Now you got your quarterback right now who didn't have all of his pieces sitting there talking about, damn, do I really want to keep playing football? Y'all, that's a sad thing to have in your head. It's just like sitting at home. And I'm sure Lee, Dan, y'all sat there and had moments where you're like, damn, am I doing enough? Am I happy with the progress that I'm making? I know people who sit there and say, be proud of your small wins, but for people who have higher expectations and want greater things out of life and are accustomed to winning on the regular, are my small wins really worth anything when I take 3 steps forward and 4 steps back and
That's
2
true.
steps to the side?
Let's get Daniel in here.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you guys, and I think the point that I want to stick to is what you guys both brought up, and it's the blame game right now, and that's the harsh reality. And when you look at Joe Burrow, and I'm sure everybody can attest to this, at some point, right, you can only be a team player for so long before you start to get a little pissed off. Like that's the truth. Joe Burrow, Ja'Marr Chase, these guys, we saw the same thing last year. Ja'Marr Chase is producing. Joe Burrow's producing.
Yeah.
You'll be a team player. All right, listen, I know I'm working my ass off. In Joe's heart, in Jamar's heart, they're probably looking at themselves saying, hey, I'm playing the best football out of anybody in the world, and we ain't winning. I'm doing my
Just
job.
came off a triple crown.
So I think that at some point it's fair to say that it is okay for Joe Burrow to be tired. And that's why I think the point that I see people saying this doesn't matter, I think this matters so much, because I can confidently say in that guy's heart, sure, he probably believes he can do more. He probably blames himself for the Buffalo Bills loss. But he knows heading into next year, hey, I'm going to do my part, and I'm going to be the best damn quarterback in the league. I need help.
Right.
And at some point,
or change.
And the only change that can really come, at some point, you look inward, but then you start to look outward and say, all right, what can change? Who can I place blame on? A lot of times, it's going to be the head coach. So I think that's real. And I do think the one thing that they're lacking and they're missing, I think they're missing the mixin. I think they're missing the dog.
They're missing that lot. They're missing that true alpha male, that emotional leader. But here's one thing before we even get to that.
Yeah.
Again, context matters with this. When Joe Burrow went out for the season, right? The Bengals, they were on their way to be. They were still facing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, we went on to win that game, but they were 2-0. Joe Burrow's mentality, right? Because remember, the timetable was, hey, if the Bengals could hold on for the next 3 months, whatever, then Joe Burrow could come right back when they're playing for something meaningful. They won one game in the span in which he went out. They won one game. So and that game was against the Pittsburgh Steelers on a Thursday night. You proceeded to lose every single game. And so at the end of the day, you didn't even give him a fighting chance, right? Yeah, you could say, yeah, well, you could have came back and won every single game. Yes, but let's call it what it is. With Joe Burrow at the helm, even though he didn't finish the Jacksonville Jaguars game, he started it, played okay in the game, but the Bengals are 3-1 with Joe Burrow this season. It's just so unfortunate that one loss probably was the knife in the fork. Sure, they can still run the table.
Came back with no room for
still,
error.
Listen, they still can run the table, but now you need help. Now you need the Pittsburgh Steelers to lose 3 times. You need the Ravens to lose what, twice or 3 times?
3 times.
3 times. And to me, that's a tall task. That's the tiresome thing. If you fight and you get to 8 wins, you'll finish the season what, 8-9? Yeah. And then you still
we need the Steelers to lose 3 times. You're right. Yeah.
Then you finish 8-9, but you didn't really have a real shot at the playoffs. That's why it's almost, listen, it's close but not close enough. But as it pertains to Joe Burrow's demeanor in the press conference, there was a comment made by one of our loyal listeners, and I actually want to pull it up. They made an interesting comment. It was from John Tool 5338. And he was completely speculating here, but I thought it was interesting too, because I knew what the vibes were when the Bengals had informed Lou Anarumo and other coaches on the staff that they'd be gone after the Steelers game last year. And they were simply just playing to play, to hold on to some type of hope. But he said, I think it's clear the front office pulled Joe in out of respect, because it's his team, to tell him they are firing Zach. To me, I thought that was very interesting. Usually people have comments and stuff like that, and I look at, because I try to read as many comments as possible after the show, but I thought that was an interesting point, because hear me out. You could take from that, hey, maybe you felt the onus on you. Well, that guy might have lost a job, but I'm here to say, Joe, it wasn't on you. That's not the reason why. If he were to lose his job, it's not because of that. It's because they failed to keep it competitive when you were out. And to me, I don't know. I walk away from this feeling this season saying something needs to change. And I don't know if simply, I know people want Duke Tobin's head, and we could agree. You need a real general manager in here, but who's to say they won't just promote from within? Who's to say that person will have the same autonomy? There's a lot of questions that go into that. But more importantly, are you still confident that even if with them bringing in a different quote unquote lead man, are you still confident that the coach, you have the right coach in entering a lame duck year? Again, pointing the similarities between Zach Taylor and Marvin Lewis, right? Yeah. Zach Taylor is facing potentially missing the playoffs for the 3rd year in a row as the Bengals head coach. Marvin Lewis was faced with a similar thing. He had a year left on his contract with the Bengals, and the Bengals moved on. This is a very, very similar situation here. Again, I'll keep asking, are you going up or are you going down?
Or are you just
that's what it is. And so when coaches, even last year, when the players were coming to lose defense, Trey Hendrickson, all those guys are coming to lose defense, they had already known that Lou was out after the year, but you had nothing to play for. The only thing you had to play for was your future employer, who happened to be the Indianapolis Colts right down the road. So to me, I don't know if you can co-sign bringing Zach Taylor back, considering you did the change at defensive coordinator. You have, lost your offense coordinator, hired another guy who's been with you since you absolutely started here. You've done the necessary changes. The only thing left to change, if it's not a personnel thing, is the head coach. That's where I stand, and that's where I fall. And again, Purcell Gaines, he said the Bengals go 8-9. Hear me out, brother. Even if the Bengals go 8-9, we could say, we have people saying the Bengals are winning the division. What don't we get? The Bengals need help to win the division. They need help to win the division. They no longer carry the torch. They need teams. They need to rely on other teams to beat the Steelers. And they need other teams to rely on to beat the Ravens while also taking care of business themselves. So hear me out. That's the thing about handling your business and winning the games that you're supposed to win. Games like the Jets, game like the Bears, games like the Patriots. Because now you're in a situation in which you need to rely on other people. And, somebody has said in the comment section the other day on Twitter, they said, well, Malik, your show has become First Take because you are negative or you're this and the third. if you're going to call my show, hear me out. If you're going to call my show one of the most successful debate TV programs, whether we agree or disagree, because I don't like Stephen A. Smith, but whether we agree or disagree, because I keep it real and because I hold feet to the fire, because I said that is absolutely fine by me. That does not absolve us from getting to the facts, and the facts are men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Bengals are 4-9. Zach Taylor and the Bengals are in danger of missing playoffs for the third straight year, and we're talking about winning the division when you need help, when you need other teams to handle your business because you couldn't get it done. That's like saying, hey, I need my grass cut, but I ain't gonna cut it. Or you're in a spot in which it's got too high and you don't know how to cut it, so now you have to rely on somebody else to cut it. What are we talking about here? Where do we get off just absolving people from their failures in any other sport, in any other team? This is a foregone conclusion. It's a foregone conclusion. The fact of the matter is we didn't handle business at home, and now things have gotten out of hand. Now you need other people to come in. Now, guess what? We're the police force. You couldn't handle protecting your town, so guess what? Now you got to call on the National Guard. That's what it is. That's what it is. You couldn't handle business, so now you got to rely on other outside factors to get this ship corrected. And when you're at that spot, you have to look inward.
Well, and right there, like, I know it's a funny analogy, but I can point to that. Like, let's look at the National Guard thing, what you just said. In this instance, and when people want to blame Duke Tobin in the front office, I think that's fair to say. But when we're talking about real change and people saying Zach Taylor should not be absolved and he's fine, look at it, what you just said, the National Guard. This was like the National Guard coming to your house beforehand and saying, hey, I'm going to give you some help, right? But we're not going to step in. I'm going to give you some help. That's what the Bengals did with Joe Flacco. And I think that Joe Flacco move is something that's not being discussed enough, because that was the organization giving the coaching staff something to say, hey, the organization can hang their hats and say, we tried. We gave you Dalton Risner to fix the offensive line. We gave you Noah Fant. We gave you Joe Flacco. Those moves were practically in season. And the organization, Duke Tobin, they can look at them and say, hey, we put our eggs in the basket for you. For right or for wrong, maybe they did more, but that's what the organization can look at. And where does the blame go? Does it go to Burrow? Does it go to the defense coordinator? Does it go to Duke Tobin, or does it go to the head coach? And that's where I fall with the head coach.
Bro, we got to let this 8 and 9 shit go. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I'm like, y'all, this is second year of us needing help to get into. We haven't had, respectfully, the Bengals have not had a quarterback like this. Yeah, Carson Palmer was really good. We know how that ended. We haven't had a quarterback like Joe Burrow ever. So you would think with having someone of that prestige, of that type of caliber of play and what he's able to produce, you would want to tighten up a little bit more when it comes to the front office. You just named Dalton Risner. You just named Noah Fant. You just named a couple other guys. Most of those guys you just named were on the offensive side. Mm-hmm. The problem is the Bengals don't have a defense. I'm not going to lie to you. You let go of Jessie Bates. You let go of Mike Hilton. You let go of DJ Reader. I'm not going to lie to you. Those guys were asking for a little bit of money, X, Y, and Z. I get it. The situation was a little troublesome. But that doesn't take away from the fact that you didn't find replacements to give you the same production or draft properly to make sure that you didn't have a fall off into the depths of hell. This is where we're at right now. Is who do we blame? Joe Burrow or Duke Tobin? No, you blame the people who make the decisions. And Joe doesn't make the decisions. He has a lot to say so. And at the end of the day, if Joe decides I want to stop playing football, the Bengals are going to be ass out. You're gonna be in the same position essentially that the Cleveland Browns are. You're gonna be looking for your next guy when you did have the Indianapolis Colts. If I'm correct, they went through since Andrew Luck was gone. They've been through 10 plus quarterbacks starting for them. That's not a good feeling to consistently have inconsistency. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. And also to the people who sit here and say that this has become first take. Respectfully, go somewhere else, because at the end of the day, you can't blame us for being real. You can't blame us for sitting here and holding people accountable to the idea that maybe, just maybe, you're the problem. And I know we live in a society where it's been a kind of, soft on the idea of telling people exactly how it is. But we give kudos when kudos is deserved.
100%. Hear me out, Tim, and I'll let you continue. If you gave me an ultimatum, you said, Malik, you have to walk away from this show today. And by the way, this isn't my main job. I'm the CEO of a company. If you have to walk away from this program today and the Bengals have successful, goodbye. This is my last show. 100%.
Absolutely.
Like that. Like I hope people don't think that I matter that much or that I care that much about my opinion to the point where, like, for me, it's not good for anyone's mental health to be negative but my job on this show is to discuss and analyze the product that's being put out on the field. That is my point blank period. If the product is great, we're talking great about the product. You can go see my past shows when the product was amazing and I was speaking with so much confidence and so much this, that, and the third. The thing with me is I have this special ability, I think, guys. I think when I think I know when it's time to move on. I think I know when it's time to move on. I think I know when things have run its course. And it felt as if Joe Burrow opened up that window and you said, oh, maybe you could win with Zach. Maybe Zach kind of impressed me the year when Joe Burrow went out and they rattled off a bunch of wins. And I said, maybe with a couple of different tweaks. But then to just see it just fall off the rails like this. And as much as we want to fault the organization for drafting, and yes, all that stuff is all hindsight. It's 2020. I could tell you, every draft expert that I spoke to, people at PFF, they raved about the Shemar Stewart pick. They talked about how he could help this Bengals defense. There were people that really hit me up when Cam Taylor-Britt got drafted and said, you guys just got to steal. He was blah, blah, blah on my draft
and
board.
It looks good.
And he looked good to start. And then I think people didn't handle being a professional athlete the best through the outside forces and outside circumstances. But to me, it looked good on paper. You had people endorsing these said picks. You made some necessary moves to try and keep a competitive team. You tried to go out there. I could see if they just didn't make a move at the quarterback position, but they said, okay, Jake Browning's not cutting it. We don't want our season to live and die by Jake Browning. We're going to go out there and get Joe Flacco. So they try. Even we can debate all day of how hard they tried or who they could have gotten instead. But they did in their eyes, and in my eyes, try doesn't mean necessarily it worked out. The fact of the matter is, do you consider the Joe Flacco experience a success? I think you had a quarterback out there that put together a winning offense. He had his mistakes, but every quarterback has his mistakes at 40 plus years old. I think that they tried to make moves with the Dalton Risner thing. They tried to make moves with the Noah Fant thing. They tried to do things that will keep this team competitive. People forget about the Mike Pennell thing. And that didn't work out. That was very short-lived. Listen, they did things that they thought in their head would help this team. In the end, it did not help this team. So again, this is a results-driven business. It doesn't matter if I'm a sales manager and I brought in this quote-unquote sales technique. The end product is, did you have success or did you not have success? The Bengals record says 4-9. In most years, they're eliminated from playoff contention. It just so happens the AFC North is an absolute crapshoot this year. So mathematically, they still have a shot. But what are we talking about here? You're still judged off of one thing. Did you win or did you lose? It's that cut and dry for me, guys. Because are you going up or are you going down? Are you going up? Are you going Joe Burrow? Can we all agree? It's probably a top two. In my eyes, he's the best quarterback in the National Football League.
Yeah.
Why is the best quarterback in the National Football League missing, right? Missing the playoffs for a potential third straight year. And guess what? Duke Tobin is looked at as family by the Brown family. Could they move on from him? Sure. But what makes you think the Brown family isn't looking at Zach Taylor as the head coach and saying, this was your product?
4,000 yards, 40 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I have a receiver who is a Triple Crown winner. I have an offensive line that now at this point is playing better than any offensive line we've had in the last 4 or 5 years. And you're still sitting here at 4-9. I'm not gonna lie to you. You think we're frustrated? You think you guys at home are frustrated with the results? Joe Burrow is sitting here and saying the exact same thing. As a quarterback, you were sitting there saying, what the hell else can I do to make sure that there is Bengals win said across all platforms at the end of the game. Yes, this is a product driven league. This is a production. This is a results. We're here to dive in to exactly why that was a L, why that was a loss, and what can be changed in order to have it consistently become the results that you want. We're not trying to pick sides here. If you're doing bad, I'm gonna tell you. If it smells like shit, it is shit.
Well, because here's the thing: as an organization, imagine we're all three the brain trust of the Bengals, Marissa included, because I love Marissa. She's awesome. Here's the thing: if let's put our thinking caps on. If I am a part of ownership, and let's say such and such, Zach Taylor's, he's obviously head coach of the Bengals, right? And obviously we've gone out there, we've accumulated draft picks to this thing. It hasn't necessarily quote unquote panned out, but they've showed flashes. They were able to look dominant in some spurts against quarterbacks and teams that were up of the some of the upper echelon. How does your mind not go with, even though you're not a defensive guy, you're the head coach of the team, you call offensive plays, you still can't field a winning team, right? Wait, listen for a second. You can't win. You can't field a win. You can't field a winning team, and you're blaming your defense. You know where my mind goes?
What?
Well, guess what? Marissa, Tim, Daniel. Maybe we should hire a defensive coach, a guy that can be a change of voice, could go out there, correct the defense because that's his quote unquote specialty. And it's a change of voice. And maybe that guy, since the offensive guy can't seem to hire the right guy to quote unquote fix the defense, maybe we go out there and we hire a defensive coach, a new change, get a change of voice in there, right? And a guy that can help turn this thing around, because it's clear this project, because you have to look at this as a project now, it's too big for you. Your offense is clicking, but your offense isn't always perfect. Why? It could be because of your inability to be consistent with running the ball, whatever the case may be. Why, Daniel, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Why wouldn't you look at that and say, maybe we need to bring in a different voice who happens to be a defensive-minded coach? Because then guess what? That kills two birds with one stone. It gets a new voice in here. It gets a defensive-minded guy in here, right? To me, how is that not on the brain?
Yeah, it's almost like if we're sitting here, like I'm trying to think of an example, but let's say we had an intern, for example, right? And we brought this intern. And we bought, because this is also, if we're the organization, I hate to say it, but they're also looking at like, hey, this is our money. I paid for your brand new computer. I paid for your brand new laptop. I paid for your brand new service. So damn right, you probably should be having some success with what you are giving us back. And I think that's maybe at some point the ownership looks at Zach Taylor and should say, hey, listen, I paid Joe Burrow $257 million or $275 million. I paid Ja'Marr Chase this offseason. I paid T. Higgins this offseason. This is, and I hate to say it, but that's probably how they look at it. This is what I gave you. You should be having success. The team is not. And that's where I hate to say it, but especially whether it's in business, you've got to look at every facet and say what is doing well and what is not doing well. They could say that they tried. And Malik, I thought you brought up that great point. They gave them Joe Flacco and they said, hey, I want you in the next 9 games to win more than 1 game. And they won 1 game. So I think it is totally fair to question it. Let's also take a step back. Tim, Malik, they gave him last year too. We can't forget about that. Last year went ideal. Joe Burrow, MVP candidate, Ja'Marr Chase. So it's not like we are having some radical thinking. Last year was another year. And what did they do? They went out and they fired the defense coordinator. So that was one straw. At some point, I hate that it sounds like this, but at some point, Zach's got to be the guy that's going to take the blame, because you've been here for 7 years. Something has to change. And I agree with you. In my opinion, I was always kind of on the mindset. I wanted a guy for a new head coach, maybe like a Mike McCarthy, somebody who's done it before. But I look at history, whether it was like John Gruden with the Buccaneers, when the Denver Broncos brought in John Fox and they went on, 3 straight playoff runs. A lot of times, if you have one component missing in your team, go out and hire a guy for what you're missing.
And you know what's crazy? I've been saying this and Bengals book, yo, I've been saying the same thing for like the last 2 years. And I think people kind of cackle at it when I say it, but Brian Flores as our head coach sounds like a match made in heaven. Joe Burrow, which he showcased before, can call his own damn plays. But you can have an offensive mind who is capable of being able to add some wrinkles to the offense to make it more dynamic, to make it more, unconventional, to that point. But pairing Joe Burrow up with a defensive-minded head coach can do wonders for this team. We've been down the rabbit hole and we've seen, which has been some really good with the offensive-minded coach as having a Super Bowl opportunity presented in front of us. But at the end of the day, you haven't done anything as of lately, and you're wasting already. Joe Burrow was in his prime 2-3 years ago. I'm going to be honest with you. Joe's giving you 40 touchdowns. Joe's giving you 4,500 passing yards. What have you done with it? That's the question I'm asking, I guess, as the front office. If I am sitting here and I'm trying to place blame on somebody, as far as, when you got Zach sitting in the chair in front of you, at the end of the day, I don't want to sit here and, as a front office, I'm going to say this as a fan as well. I didn't bring my car to the shop to get my starter fixed and you're working on my brakes. That's not the problem. My problem is my damn starter. I need what has been a problem to be fixed right now. Dog, that stuff can wait. Honestly, Joe Burrow can hold the helm. Honestly, if Joe Burrow's headset was to go out, I think he could call a 4-week period without having an offensive coordinator, because he understands the game. Joe's a student of the game. You don't want to lose your fire. But that defense, giving up, you know what it was? I'm going to be honest real quick, because I already know you want to say something. You said, was it a successful period with Joe Flacco being brought in the Bengals trying?
Mm-hmm.
I think it exposed something. Honestly, if you had somebody of that age to come in here and put up those type of numbers, because if you go through each game, outside of Pittsburgh game, the second one, and the Patriots game, which already had Joe Flacco at the age of 40 plus with a bad AC joint, dislocated finger, still sitting there having the team in position.
Mm-hmm.
That exposed the fact that you guys really just never, no matter who's in here to produce, the problem is still the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you put a nice cover over it doesn't mean it's still not worth shit.
Yeah.
And that's where the Bengals are at. You can't keep ignoring what's the problem.
Yep. I want to get to 𝗦𝗢𝗎𝗓𝗏's McNally's comment in here before I go let Daniel say what he has to say. She says, side note, last week in Joe's press conference, he said, these are all good coaches. Sometimes we just have to execute. You know who else Joe Burrow gave a ringing endorsement to last year? You can catch this. The last 2 press conferences of the season, he said the same thing about 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏. Mm-hmm. He said the exact same thing about 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏. He endorsed 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏. He thought 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 was a good defensive coordinator. The results are still the results. And again, this is all he's known. Cincinnati is all he's known. These coaches are all he has known since he entered the National Football League. So maybe his idea of a good coach is a little bit skewed. And I'm not saying Zach isn't a good coach per se, but I do think that maybe, because I have to change my speaking pattern on this, because I think people think I hate Zach, because I don't. I think things sometimes run its course. And I think change is okay within context. And I think giving someone 7 years on a job to do the job, and it seems like it's just going downhill, because guess what? For 2 years in a row, you finished 9-8. For the first time since Joe Burrow's been healthy and he's completed the season, you're going to finish the season with a losing season. I'm sorry, Joe Burrow hasn't been healthy the entire season, but you know what I'm saying? He's finishing as the quarterback the remainder of this season. You're going to finish with a losing season. To me, questions need to have answers. Yeah. It's just that simple. Guys, it's not a personal vendetta. And people in Cincinnati, I think some folks hate change and they kind of just stay true to the people that have been here. But to me, again, I'm from, as you guys don't, for some that maybe not know me, I'm from New Jersey, New York area. If he was in New York,
That media?
I'm just telling you, if you think I'm overboard or I'm this and a third, the radio is king in New York. Listen, radio is king in New York. That's the only place where content, like Cincinnati is a beautiful place because content creators have a place to thrive. But in New York, the media, the New York Times, the radios, listen, his feet would be held to the fire. And I'll keep saying this. Hear me out. I'll keep saying this. If you're not a part of the solution,
you are the problem.
You are a part of the problem. It's just that simple. Somebody said, would you ever think about, Jared said, good to see you, Jared, too. Says, would you ever think about bringing Lou back to be the head coach? Would be wild, but just a thought. I want Brian Flores. I think that bridge is a little bit burnt, though it was very disrespectful, and which he was scapegoated, and I think that was the feeling by some, by him, whatever the case may be. I don't know. I think to be a head coach in the National Football League, you would take that opportunity. I think you would. And I think you'd be a fool to run from it. I know he wants to be a head coach. I know there are several other people that I've talked to that want to be quote unquote head coaches. But here, they're outside of Brian Flores. I like Brian Flores' name. I do. Here's another name I want to throw at you. A guy that has ties to the Cincinnati Bengals. He was the Bengals linebackers coach from 2014 and 2015. He is now officially the defensive coordinator of the Texans. He's taken over play calling duties. And guess what? He had those boys playing. He had Patrick Mahomes in hell. You know who that is? You know who that is? Matt Burke. Matt Burke. He is now the defensive coordinator of the Texans. And I don't know if you've been watching the Texans. I don't know if you've been watching the Texans defense lately, but those boys are playing. To me, it's very clear you need, more importantly than just a defense, you need a culture setter. You also want a guy in here who has done it before. To me, I feel like Brian Flores, I feel like Brian Flores has checks a lot of those boxes for me personally.
Right.
Again, he might not be a friend. The media here in Cincinnati might not like him because he probably give him a little bit of a kick in the ass.
And to be honest, we don't need anybody that we like. We need somebody to
You need somebody in here that's going to instill change. You need a new voice in here, but you also need somebody that can come in here and quote unquote overhaul this team. Because to me, that's the only way it makes sense. Because if you go out there and you bring in an offensive minded coach, it sucks for Al Golden, who just left the University of Notre Dame. And it sucks for defensive players for having to know a system, but at least you know, hey, this guy is going to be here. This guy is our head coach. This defense ain't changing. This is what is instilled in us. And what has he gotten the most out of? He's gotten the most out of lesser talent, lesser defenses. That's where my mind goes a little bit like that. But at the end of the day, no matter who it is, it could be Hafley of the Packers. It could be Matt Burke of the Texans. It could be Brian Flores of the Minnesota Vikings. Bring in a person, right, that can inspire this team. Bring in a person that can also get the most out of this talent, because no matter what, it will not, this is not going to be something that turn around overnight. And you don't necessarily even need it to quote unquote turn around overnight, but you do need somebody that can put together a respectable defense, a respectable football team. And that's just my thought process.
And I'm not going to lie to you. It's kind of gotten to the point where even if you do decide to bring in somebody, a defensive mind, a brilliant mind at that, to take over this team, the problem, and I feel like why Lou, if he was ever asked to be the head coach, or if that was ever a discussion, he'll possibly just put up both middle fingers and tell y'all to go somewhere, screw yourself, is because y'all use me as a scapegoat when y'all have the same issues now. That's number one. Number two, when I did have players, they made plays and I was able to call plays. Whoever comes in here as head coach is going to have the issue of, I don't have the personnel to make that type of impact. And where does that come back to? That comes back to Katie Blackburn. That comes back to Duke Tobin. At the end of the day, you have to have the players to be able to coach and say, you know what? This is where you're at right now. Where can you be at 3 months now as far as progression? And what can we get out of you? I don't know what the fuck that was. Like, yo. Dog, just give them the players and they can make plays. You should have never let Jessie Bates go. I know this is kind of like kicking.
Yes, but hear me out. I can't even keep harping on that.
I
Because
know,
guess what? Javon Holland, a guy that I love at the safety spot, was sitting there as a free agent. Was Julian Blackmon was a guy that was sitting at the free agency spot.
You had Will Johnson, you could have drafted.
Yeah,
you had so many other people that could have fixed some of the primal spots that you needed help in.
Yeah.
Now you're sitting there, you're like, well, CTB's out for the year, and we don't know if we're going to sign him. Trey Hendrickson has a bad pelvis and he's done.
Mhm.
As far as the defensive line, you haven't seen the progression that you really needed. Yeah, there's been flashes over these last 3 weeks, but there's still, I'm tired as a Bengals fan sitting there when it's 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15.
You know who also
3rd and 8, and I got my hands over my eyes and saying, dear Lord, please don't let them give up 3rd and forever. And it happens. It just keeps happening. There's the common sense periods that Bengals coaching staff and I'm not going to just alleviate Bengals players of all pressure either. Sometimes you just got to use your common sense. I mean, yeah, all right, we're in man, and I'll keep coming back to it. 3rd and 15. Yeah, we're in man, but Josh Allen do got the ball. I'm gonna stay on my person for so long, and then I'm gonna drop down and try to go make a play. You're leaving too many holes where there's not enough accountability. Accountability. I'm gonna keep saying it because there's not enough of it in that building. Go ahead.
4 names again before Daniel gets in here: Vance Joseph, Broncos defensive coordinator; Matt Burke, Texans defense coordinator; Brian Flores, Minnesota Vikings defense coordinator; and Jeff Hafley, Packers defense coordinator. Those are where my names start.
Jim Schwartz?
No.
Why?
I'd be open to it for sure. I like Jim
Browns
Schwartz.
look their defense.
He's weird though. He retired at one point and then unretired. Like, it's just strange. I like the Browns, but you also want a person in here that's kind of like, you feel like, I think it's easy for your defense to look good when you have Myles Garrett. I'll say that. I think it's very easy for your defense to look good when you have Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
That's not to say he's not a good defense coordinator, because I think he's been good at a lot of places. But I think Vance Joseph, Matt Burke, Brian Flores, Jeff Hafley, for as far as a defensive-minded coach, that's where the buck starts and ends for me. That's where it starts and ends for me. And if you tell me to pick a name out of these four, I'm going Brian Flores
Number
is 1A. Vance Joseph for me is probably another 1A.
I like that.
And then Matt Burke is probably next for me. People say Jeff Hafley. I'm not there yet. I don't believe in that. I'm just sorry. I know that a lot of people rave about him, but to me, I just think that Flores is deep. I just seen Flores get the most out of lesser talent. It's easy for me to say, I could say Matt Burke, but look at the talent he has on the defensive line.
I see a dog when I think about Vance Joseph and Brian Flores. I see guys who can come up to you and grab you by face mask and say, I need more out of you.
Vance Joseph has the ties to the organization as a former cornerbacks coach. And you also think about Vance Joseph. He's kind of reminds me of, you know what the kind of Vance Joseph hire would be? A Todd Bowles hire for me. That would be like a Todd Bowles-esque hire. It's a name where you were a former head coach. It didn't work out. You're getting another chance to be a head coach again. And then maybe, just maybe, you need a change of scenery. You already got the quarterback in place. To me, that could make I think that I feel like Vance Joseph would be a very good option.
Be getting left with a terrible roster by any means.
No,
I think the Bengals are a legit pass rusher, a legit linebacker, and a legit secondary piece, whether that's at safety or corner away. And you can get all of that done and find pieces that are consistent between the draft and free agency. I'm not gonna lie to you. There's a few guys on the back end that Asante Samuel Jr. you could go look at. As far as the linebacker position, do we really believe in Demetrius and Barrett? Do we really? Because I'm not gonna lie to you, if you're able to get up there and get what's his name from Ohio State,
safety?
No,
Sonny Styles.
Yes, if you're able to sit there and possibly look at him. And then as far as defensive line, I've seen flashes from Myles Murphy. Am I content with that? Hell no. No, I'm not. As far as really anybody else, what does Shamar actually, bring to the table as far as being an impact player? You don't know because he's not available. And that's another problem. You have to stop swinging and missing. You have to sometimes take what is a surefire pick. And I know the draft is based on possibility, on projection, and also somewhat of production. But there's a lot of teams who took guys who just simply were the prototype and had the production to be behind it. We do a lot of prototyping. We do a lot of picking guys based on what we think they can be instead of what they've actually been able to do. In a business where it is, what have you done for me lately? What are we doing here?
Yeah, I think that like the name that you brought up, and I think all four of those names are very. I like those names, and if I was in the organization, I'd probably look at those names, and I think there's a great thing about each and every single one of those, and the two positives, and the biggest positive I'll say about Burke and Vance Joseph is that if I'm in the organization, something I've seen time and time again that is extremely important to having a successful team is your head coach and your GM or de facto GM. They've got to be on the same page. They have to be. Because if you're the head coach, you have to, and this is my philosophy, and I've seen it works, is you've got to have some pull in the roster. You've got to have some pull in the drafting. You've got to have some pull in the management of the team because it is your team, goddammit.
I better be comfortable where I sleep at night. And if I'm not, I'm gonna move.
And it's even to a greater point than that is, hey, the players that you're going after, just look at this couple recent coaching hires of Ben Johnson. Their GM gave him a lot of pull. Mike Vrabel has more pull than the Patriots GM. The teams that turn it around quickly, it is because they have a working relationship with the front office and the head coach. You cannot be separate. And that's where I think the Vance Joseph thing is a home run if you're looking at that, because I can almost guarantee you Vance Joseph comes in with more pull than some of these other guys because of his relationship with Duke Tobin. And maybe that's the same thing with Burke because he was with the Bengals before. But
Dave is saying Robert Saleh. That stint in with the Jets honestly put such a bad taste in my mouth personally that I think he is exactly where he's supposed to be. And that's in San Francisco because they know him.
Yep.
And that's one of the few situations, when you talk about familiarity, that right there is the best place for him to be because those guys believe. It's different when you have to move locations and have people, you try to make people believe, or you're trying to put out enough product and thinking wise, trying to make people, come to grips with your vision and what you would want. I'm not gonna lie to you. There's guys in the league that are, at the point of needing the opportunity to showcase what they truly can do. So
and just to that point, like Robert, and there's certain people that it's okay. They are much better coordinators than being a head coach, and that's fine. I think that's what I kind of fall with the Robert thing too. I was extremely high on him. I think that there's been a lot of coaches that have raved about him, whether it's even Jeff Hafley Robert was a huge reason why Jeff got the job in Green Bay, and Jeff got the job in Houston because of Robert. So I think that there's a lot of positives about him, but at the same time, he had 4 years in New York. It wasn't very good. And I think he's just in a great spot being a defensive coordinator. So maybe they entertain that, but I think that the options on the defense side of the ball that you just brought up, I think those are probably better options than looking at
And I feel
Robert.
so bad for Zach too, because I don't, but I mean, you ain't poke your chest out soon enough. You didn't sit there and put your foot down soon enough, using a PG term. And I'm working on it, man.
Honestly, maybe he's just, and this is how I would view it. Maybe he's just not cut out for it.
He's not that type of guy.
And maybe it's at some point it grows stale, and maybe it's like, hey, bro, at some point it's wraps.
And as a grown man, I'm not about to listen to somebody that I feel like I got more guts than. If we're gonna be for real with you, I listen to my dad wholeheartedly because at the end of the day, I know he's not only been through what he's been through, but he can go into detail about what he's been through, and it sounds accurate. It sounds precise. It sounds like I know that if I take this information, I can progress towards a place where it's a common goal. Dog, Zach be sitting there bullshitting people sometimes. And I'm tired of hearing them. We had this conversation maybe 2 weeks ago about his pressers and his automated responses. That shit don't move me no more.
Yeah.
And now when you walking through the lobby, or when you punching your PIN code to get into the building and you walking past me, what's up, Zach? You good? All right, man. I'm not. What's up, coach? How you doing? Hey, what you want to go over some stuff real quick? No, as Joe, I'm sitting there dog, I'm just trying to get through the season healthy. I'm just trying to get through. I'm just trying to be alive at the end of this year, dog. I'm tired of rehab. I'm tired of being in ice baths. I'm tired of being in hyperbaric chambers. I'm like, bro, leave me alone, bro. I just want to be healthy.
Listen.
Yeah.
Daniel, is anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
Nothing much, man.
Hell no.
Well, listen, man. There's a lot more that we're gonna get into, and we have more on deck today for the show. But I think we've said a lot, and I think we can save the rest for the next show. But listen, we want to thank y'all so much for tuning in to another episode of the Sit Down Morning Show. Let us know down in the comment section what you guys think. Right? Let us know down in the comment section what you guys think. And we appreciate you so much. Again, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications. Remember, there's only one way you should be waking up talking sports, enjoying sports, having the conversation and the debate, and that is the right way. We will see you guys tomorrow for Fantasy Football Fridays here on the Sit Down.
This is 𝗬𝗎𝗓𝒻. You ain't heard about us yet, well, you